Now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Hello, Uglies, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night. As always, we will be your ghostly guides through the darkness in this realm. Swanthula.
And Dracmorda.
And we are here to take you on a crazy, sadistic ride, just the way we designed it, through the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 4, our science fiction challenge, which I consider to be, I said this last episode, but I really meant it for this one, peak Dragula.
I think you're right.
I'm squealing. It was so good.
I can't wait to talk about it too. But before we do, I kind of like that we did a little movie review at the beginning of the last episode. So I think we should do another one. Just so, we can keep our fans with new choices to watch.
Yeah, we can keep our name in the hat for a sponsorship from Junior Mints. Could
exactly.
happen.
All right. So the movie that we watched this week was Burnt Offerings. It's a 1976 haunted house movie, and you can watch it on Tubi for free, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought this movie was really atmospheric and creepy. What did you think of it?
Yeah. This was right. It had the same almost texture that The Changeling has.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's from a very, it's from the same period, basically. For a good portion of the film, I was kind of waiting for something to happen. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, it just didn't seem very satisfying. But then as it started to climax, I was like, it put everything into perspective, kind of like the way Presence did.
Yeah.
Toward the end, I was like, wow. Like, it kind of blew me away.
Yeah. So it's essentially this family moves to this really old house that they rent from this couple who's like, we're going to leave and you can just live here and enjoy all this house. And I had a big pool and all this stuff, big old haunted house looking place. And they were like, the only thing is, you have to take a tray upstairs to the third floor to this granny who's in the attic and leave it outside of her door every night. She's not going to come out. And
she sleeps most of the time. You may never see her, but just bring her a tray of food, I think like once or twice a day.
Yeah.
And so the wife, who's played by Karen Black, kind of gets obsessed with this chore, and she's spending more and more time in that little parlor right outside the granny's room. And she starts to open up a music box. And then when she listens to the music, like all kinds of weird, like kind of supernatural shit start happening on the grounds. And then there's photos from, going back probably 100 or 150 years on display in that room. It just started to plant seeds of like, wow, what is actually going on here?
So eventually what happens is, the family starts trying to kill each other basically. And then the woman slowly starts dressing more like she's from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And the wife.
Drax looking at me. She's like, why is she in a costume? Why is she dressed up so much? Why does she look like that?
Well, because I noticed the difference. She looked really 80s and young.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute. It slowly happened.
Yeah.
I was like, you are in a full Agatha Harkness costume.
Yeah, now she's Lady Tremaine.
Yeah.
The hair was exactly the same.
So, yeah, the dad tries to kill the son. And then there's an aunt that came to stay with him who dies too.
Played by Betty Davis.
Betty Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a weird undertaker in a hearse that is sort of, it's like a spirit or a demon or something, and it's kind of harassing the dad and driving him crazy. I don't want to tell too much more about it, but I do want to talk about the ending because I have to. We've already led them this far.
Okay.
So at the end, they're trying to escape, and trees are falling on their car and shit, and there's this big storm. And they go back to the house, and the wife snaps out of it, and she's like, we have to leave this house. So she finally is down to leave after the husband's been begging her to.
The husband and the son have been begging her, and she's been like kind of obsessed with staying and caring for, oh my God, this house. And she's not seeing the threat to their lives. And then the kid almost drowns. So she's like, wait a minute, maybe we need to leave tonight. We need to just get out of here.
So she goes, they're about to leave. They're all packed up. And she's like, oh, I have to do one more thing. I have to go upstairs and make sure that the granny knows that we're gone. And if anything happens, to call us. And I'm like, okay. So she goes upstairs like an hour later. She didn't come back down. So the dad goes upstairs and he sees that he finally goes into the room because he didn't go into the room with the granny up until this point. He finally goes in and sees the granny sitting in a window. So he starts talking to her. And of course, it turns around and it's his wife in the granny's wig and clothes, like very psycho.
And her eyes look kind of like whited out.
And then she's like, she lurches and she's like, she like charges him and throws him out the window and kills him. His body hits the car
that the son is in, and his face comes through the windshield and blood splatters across the son's face.
It is wild.
It's so unexpected. The son gets out of the car, and this is like an 11 or 12-year-old kid. He gets out of the car. He's crying like, Mom, Mom. He's screaming. The whole house starts to shake. And the chimney from the 3rd floor, like he looks up and the chimney crumbles down and collapses and crushes him.
The kid, yeah.
Yeah. And then the only one that's left in the house is Karen Black as the granny. And then you hear the voices of the people that they rented the house from, who are supposed to be the brother and sister children of the granny upstairs. And the house looks like the sands of time have been reversed. The house is now beautiful. It's pristine. The grounds are growing with flowers, and it's got new life basically breathed into it. And the camera pans up into that sitting room right outside of Granny's bedroom, and all those photos, they start panning across the photos, and then you see the photo of Betty Davis and the son and the dad, and those are all the sacrifices that were made to the spirit, I think, to preserve the house.
Now I started to get concerned, right? Because we live in a very old house.
Yes, we are. I'm like, do we want to watch this movie?
We live in a haunted mansion ourselves, and there are pictures of people that lived here in the 1800s, and you are on the 3rd floor in that closet like the granny was, and I was like, she's gonna come out dressed like a granny and scare the hell out of me.
You're like, not again.
I was like, why am I watching this movie? This is not the time.
Holy shit, that is hilarious.
Anyways, let's take a break, and when we come back, we will dig into the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 4.
Welcome back, my darlings. Welcome back, Drac, and welcome back, Ian.
Ooh, so does this house also have like a little basement for me to creep around in, or
Yes,
is it just
I
a
showed
granny
it to
attic?
you today.
Oh, those are my quarters. Amazing. Yes.
No, you get the room we showed over there. You have your own balcony. It's really fierce.
I was thinking, I was like, oh, finally, a place for me to just forlornly look out. Lana Del Rey plays in the background. A single tear rolls down. Hell yeah.
It's the way I start every day here at Boulet Manor.
Except yours was Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh, yeah.
Which I live for.
Oh, it's true.
Now, does Nathan like Sabrina Carpenter? Because I know Nathan is a pop girly sometimes.
Nathan is a pop girly, and we like espresso,
Okay.
but that's about it.
Really?
That's about it.
Okay.
I don't have anything explicitly against her. I have not actually gotten the deep dive.
She needs to be cast in a bitchy teen movie so badly.
I could see it.
Oh,
right?
perfect,
I mean,
yeah.
she needs to be in like the remake of Jawbreaker or something.
Well, we know that
Ooh.
Darren is working.
Nope, we can't say.
Oh.
We'll just stop right there.
Short and sweet.
All right, so let's talk about this episode of Dragula, which is the science fiction double feature. It's our first ever sci-fi challenge.
Let's talk about these 3 little words. In the beginning.
Oh my God, this intro is so good. I have so many distinct memories of filming this too.
Me too.
This intro is my favorite intro from all of Dragula.
I think it is
really?
mine
It
too.
is.
I think
It
it is
is.
mine too.
It's so good.
I absolutely love it. I actually want to expand on it in a future
Yeah.
season and revisit that.
It's
Yeah.
so good. And I discovered upon this rewatch that I am the mistress of miniatures because
Yeah.
I made that UFO and I made the house and other things that we've used on the show. But I'll never forget building that. And I'm like, how the hell are we going to shoot this and make it look anything close? And it actually reads pretty well.
I
totally-
have to give it to Nathan and the team in general because we pulled that off.
It's so funny to have now seen Quatermass and Quatermass 2, Revenge of the Quatermass or whatever. Because I'm like, oh, this is literally that. Like when the UFO is like on the string, I'm like, it's so classic black and white sci-fi. It's awesome.
I love it.
Me too. And it's so like Escape from Witch Mountain, like classic. You get your supernatural powers from outer space. When Drac and I, when Israel comes up and approaches us both, I use my telekinetic powers, and then Drac mind controls him. Like it's so cool.
It is, and it's the first hint of our extraterrestrial origin.
That's right.
Which I think hopefully people will be able to read sometime soon in a comic book form.
Yes, the story is cool.
This intro also reminds me of an artifact that you had to be there, which is digital show number 2, the Boulet Brothers double feature picture show.
Yeah.
Remember during the pandemic?
Yeah.
But which one?
Well, it has that overlying theme of coming to Earth.
Right.
Yeah, and then the spaceship that we built in the apartment.
Yes. Oh my god. That was crazy.
That was a good time.
That was cool. We just basically cleared out half of our loft and shot videos in there during the pandemic. It was kind of awesome.
I feel like the digital shows are one of the most requested artifacts that I see people talk about online. People are like, "Oh, I wish I could have. Oh, you girl, you got to be there."
We need to put them on Patreon. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the cast comes back together. We give them their challenge, which is, of course, to do a sci-fi look, but also to have a baby, because why not?
I love how I think Drac, it's you. You're like, and because for some reason you're always getting pregnant in space, like you have to have a baby. I'm like, yes, actually.
Why not?
Well, yes.
So this is one of the more hysterical boudoirs to me.
I mean,
This is unhinged.
Totally.
we need to talk about James Majesty.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought it up because, Mama, the first thing I wrote is Majesty is on a weird one.
Star of the silver screen.
Totally. My note is James is so full force during this boudoir, manipulating and planting doubt inside, attacking everyone.
Totally.
Right to their face. Like sitting there talking to bitch and be like, well, this look is cheap. And like, I don't know how you won.
Well, your
but
team kind of floated you there. Like they carried you.
Well, you won, but did you really win? Because you looked bad. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. And then she slaps Ali and she's like, it's no big deal. I just slapped you.
She's like,
Wait, was that
sorry,
on
girl.
camera or not?
No, the slap was never on camera. And I remember when this happened because we're like, ooh, do we keep that in?
Yeah.
But I think the response was so bombastic that we're like, oh, we have to keep it in, even if you don't see it.
What did she do? She like hit her on the back, like haha, like that.
Play fight.
Yeah. But I guess if you weren't looking and you didn't know it was coming, then maybe it felt like it was intended in a different way.
Well, yeah, because there's also, if you've ever play fought with a partner or just play fought in general, it's like sometimes you think you're gonna play fight, and then suddenly you're like, oh, we're throwing bows, Mama, like we're getting hurt, and I don't know, maybe Majesty doesn't know their own strength.
Maybe not. So then we have the Abora talking to Erica about making up with bitch. And then, see, this is, to me, where Erica shines.
Oh, yeah.
She's so good at bringing them together, and she doesn't come off fake either. She seems really invested in them getting along.
Yeah.
And that's the Erica energy I was hoping for on Titans, but I think she was just in a different mind state. But you can see she really shines in this season doing things like that, I think.
Erica actually becomes a very interesting, complex character for season 2 because you have this optimistic persona who really intends for people to get along and sees everybody as kind of a kindred spirit. Even if we're all not this or we're all not that, let's say we're not monsters. Everybody belongs here. Everybody has fought and deserved their chance to be here. Or maybe you two can work this out. Then at the same time, she is doing all the exterminations.
Totally.
Like she's facing every demon possible. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy.
On top of that, she also, before I think we even really internally had that phrase, like playing the game, she's playing the game.
Yeah.
This is jumping way ahead into Judgment, but the question is posed, okay, well, Erica, if not you, who do you think should be up for extermination? She immediately is just like, well, I think it's Dali. I'm like, oh, well, that's bold of you. Like I love Erica in the season.
I do too. So Abora and Bitch actually do make up in whatever way the two of them would make up. They always have weird, right? Now, you guys, look, I'm going to say this because it's true. when we cast them, I had no idea what we were getting because where they came from in Atlanta, it seems like a viperous, bitchy place, right?
Totally.
And they both, you could tell that they had that energy coming into the situation, very defensive and like ready.
And the way they talk about it too, even Eva Destruction also makes reference of her time in Atlanta, and it's talked about in these kind of mysterious, critical, threatening tones.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, what was happening in Atlanta? What the hell was going on?
And maybe there was like certain queens that were sort of quote in power that
Ooh, I can
controlled
see
the
that.
bookings.
Yeah.
Remember that happened in Chicago too
Sure
for a long
did.
time.
Someone got roasted.
She got ousted, honey.
I don't know about that one.
That
I mean,
was
I was
crazy.
never into her. We didn't connect like that, and I actually wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
With no really personal
No-
experience, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
just from an exterior.
Yeah, there was no personal experience, but it was just like we just didn't connect in that way.
There was also like, I mean, there was a vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, there was just kind of a like, oh yeah, like, no,
A little stank.
a little stank.
Yeah. Yeah,
Turned out
that's
to be big
right.
stank.
But did she deserve to be completely roasted and destroyed? I don't know.
I don't know
The
either.
truth is, I don't know.
She was a sacrifice, I think. She was sort of like the offering of the times.
And the gods were satisfied.
yeah.
Blanc. But so Abora and Bitch, when they make up, and I'm doing air quotes, you know, podcast, a visual medium, air quotes, make up, it's so on brand for the both of them and so funny. Like Abora says something to the effect of, well, bitch, you know, I think through this process I've really learned about myself, and you know, maybe I can be a better person, even though I want you to lose and I want everything to be taken from you. But I think also maybe it's not the best thing for my mental health. Like, what? That's not an apology. That, like, what are you doing?
What is she
Love
like,
her.
even though you've disappointed me multiple times.
Love her.
Amazing. Oh my God. I have this one quote written down from, and this is an Erica one. So this is right before Abora and Erica go and grab Bitch. Erica goes, well, Abora, you've taught me a lot about being a monster, and I've taught you about being a nice person.
All with that weird kind of half drag makeup on, and it just
Yes!
makes the show so funny.
With Abora as basically a chicken. It's so good.
I love how bitch is like, you're not going to trick me into not finishing my look in time. I am
Yeah.
going to be painting my body the entire conversation. Don't try it.
and she did it correctly.
She did.
How many body paint attempts have we seen where the armpit isn't there or the edges are not snatched correctly, and bitch knows how to paint herself.
And she put a towel down, which I just appreciate. Thank you for that, Mama.
A considerate queen.
Yep.
So let's move on to the floor show where we find out that our guest judges are the one and only Heclina and Alaska.
What a
Yes.
great guest judge panel. Like, you can tell we're friends, and the chatting was just really natural.
Okay, do you want to hear some weird info?
Always, yes.
Okay, so you know, Heclina, something tragic happened.
Of course.
You know, and they found her in a hotel room, and it was
In London.
suspicious in London.
Yeah.
Well, recently,
Oh.
Sister Roma from San Francisco shared this online. There's a video of 3 guys coming out of her place. Yeah,
Like
on
the
that
night. Oh my God.
yeah,
It's going to be 2 years in April, and they just released the footage. So I don't know why they would hold on to it for that long.
Oh my
And,
God.
and then I actually clicked it and watched it.
It was
it's
so creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
Just knowing what we know.
Yeah.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. I just got chills.
From a distance, though, they're so small. There's no way you could recognize them.
Wow. That is really, really creepy.
It is. But you know what I always say? Anytime I think of Heclina, it puts a smile on my face no matter what. Even though she's not here, she gave me nothing but positive energy
too.
and fun. And that's what I think of when I think of her. So
Totally. I think that radiates through in her presence on this episode as well. Even from the
We say the funniest shit.
girl, when the black holes
Yes,
comment,
that's
I
what I'm
was like,
talking about.
I was like, damn, we really didn't give a fuck.
No, we did not give one fuck. And we'll get there. I have a comment. I'm like, oh my God, we were literally fearless.
Yeah.
Like, we did whatever we wanted, period.
Period. I also love this episode, and not to spill too much tea about the way that this season was produced, but this episode has, I think, finally the judge intro comes to life, where it's like the whoosh, it has the swoosh, and then it's the editing is really snappy. And I just remember The show was getting edited in real time, honey. So we were learning as we were filming. Like it was crazy.
You would see real time improvements
Yeah,
in different crew
totally.
members' jobs.
How
because,
did we not lose our mind? Like,
Because we didn't know better.
Yeah,
we did
literally.
not. Now we know better. If you walked onto that set, you'd be like, "I'm shutting this down."
yeah, this is a sinking ship.
Do you remember? And it's funny because we did this multiple seasons in a row, but this was the first time that the three of us, locked in a room with pieces of paper being like, how do we film Judgment? How do we do this? Where do the cameras live, honey? I mean, like hours of labor.
Oh my god! And didn't we flip it once in a
Oh,
season? Like
yeah,
we
with
flipped it on the other
mid-season
side. Like no. We had it right the first
Yeah,
time.
one time I remember someone was
God.
like, "Hey, I couldn't." They were like, "You need to memorize everything you say and then repeat it."
Oh.
And somebody was behind the chair trying to read it to me.
Well, these were the days where we did Judgment multiple times. Like we would film one way and then another way, so you'd have to try to like repeat what you had said an hour or two prior.
Yeah, it was
and
authentic
impossible.
for the cast because we said it to them live, but then they would go away and we would have to repeat it. Well, we did that once and it was ridiculous and we never did it
Yeah.
again. But anyway.
This was also the era of the competitors being mic'd or kind of mic'd during the floor show because Erica has some audio and so does Disasterina. And Disasterina gives us epic,
Attention.
memeable, like legendary comments from Dragula World.
Should we mic
Attention,
them
human
again
males.
for floor shows?
I'm gonna say yes, just off the cuff, because I remember this is the first time that we did it.
Yeah.
Because there's another floor show. I think maybe it's episode 1, I think, where you can see someone's mouth moving, like they're trying to say something, but it's not there. But I remember Erica was like, it's really important. Like what I'm saying is a part of my floor show. And
Yeah.
the same for Bitch, the same for Disasterina. And honestly, for Bitch and Disasterina, it really does work.
It did.
It's so I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine without it.
No, not at all. And Erica, I think, does it to great effect too. And with her little like manga wand, and it goes ding, like right when she
Yeah.
raises it. I love that moment.
Yeah, so good.
So let's talk about their looks. Did you all remember these looks? Did you like what stood out to you and what would you judge it differently now?
This is one where I actually might judge differently again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even though when you first look at Majesty's look, you're like, you're naked and there's wires. But the performance again is so stellar. She's at the height of her powers. The makeup is so extensive. There's so many design lines all over the crown of her head, down her body, circuitry on the legs. Very cool. And then the upload me just kind of clinched it. But eyelashes aside, Victoria looked straight out of an extraterrestrial film. That like the level of execution is like 10 of 10. It's incredible. And the glowing effect, I'm like, we had something magical on camera and it's undeniable. Like this could have been one where multiple people won.
Well, we'll get there.
The other person is Bitch. I mean, Bitch was an exceptional standout. She brought character acting and comedy, and then the makeup application was great. You were transported to
Her world.
a burger joint in space. It
Absolutely.
was awesome. Yeah, it was so good.
What did you think?
One person that I really loved in this one is Disasterina.
See, that's my favorite of the episode.
Yeah.
In fact, if Abora's Ghost Town look from episode 2 was iconic for the brand, I think Disasterina's science fiction look is also belongs in the history books.
I agree with that. I think that Disasterina's drag is so strange, and I'm gonna say this word. It's not a slight. It's actually one of the superpowers. It's so DIY and punk, and it's like all you can literally see the materials that are being used. And when I see the way that she comes out and the way that she looks, and then attention human males, you're the collector ejaculate. It's so I'm like
I'm
this
from
is-
space, but it's not an invasion.
It's so irreverent and so punk. Like I love it.
Oh,
I
that's
think
her
what you're saying
superpower.
is, yeah, you like the way that she covers her yumpa.
Oh my yumpa! Yeah, absolutely. I do. I really, really do.
Okay, so let's talk about their alien births. Who do you all think gave the best birth scene?
Well, I just have to say a thing
Yeah.
straight up. At the time, I remember this being awesome. this is hardcore as hell. It is so, I'm like, what were we thinking? It's so aggressive and queer and crazy. I'm like, look at all these drag artists literally giving birth and there's just goo everywhere. I'm like, Mama, this shouldn't be on TV. Like, what is happening? It's awesome.
I love that Vicky cannibalizes her baby. That's one of my favorite moments. But Disasterina's weird, like, octopus thing, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It looks so different from his form. It's like really funny.
I love it.
I have so if Disasterina is my individual floor show new favorite, I have a birthing new favorite, and that's Dali. Because I think that Dali, we'll never truly know. I think that Dali was a little checked out at this stage. I think that Dali was ready to, as they said in Resurrection, have that sort of wave wash over them and just get out. But their performance in the birth is so funny and it's so weird. And then the baby comes out and he goes, "Oh, this isn't mine." It's so just like dry, and it's like that's Dali's. Like, we don't get to see a lot of his humor in this season, but when they come back for season 4, you're like, oh, that's you. You're dry as hell, and I love. It's so funny.
No, Dali is brilliant. I wish I was half as funny as she thinks she is.
Yeah, totally.
So then we have Erica, Dali, and Abora in the bottom. Abora with her chicken costume.
Chicken cutlets.
I mean, it's an interesting concept for science fiction.
Yeah.
The scientist that turns into like that. I think that's cool. I just don't think it was
the
like
Fly,
executed.
like Dr. Moreau. Yeah.
Yeah, as well as it could have been. But the 3 of them are up for Extermination. It's our first eating challenge of this season. And after we had them eat the brains on season 1, we had to really up the ante this time.
Yes, we did.
This is when Ian's history of filth began.
Yes. Well, the proto is, Mama, I will never forget being in my car for season 1, calling awful butcher shops in LA. Hi, do you have brains? Hi, do you have brains? You do have brains? Okay, great. And this one, I mean...
Oh my God.
Oh, and then being in my North Hollywood apartment and my roommates being like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm cooking brains.
I forgot you live with those guys. That's right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he works for the Boulets.
But this one was crazy because this was I'm trying to remember I think Vander helped with making the like spicy mealworm brains. But I remember going to get those octopus tentacles that were live tentacles, and that was a harrowing experience. I love it.
The smell. I'll never forget the
Yeah.
smell from those episodes.
And then I'll never forget that Erica yipped and then ate it again.
Oh,
That's why I'm like, Erica is a badass. I'm
She
sorry
is.
for
Hell yeah.
anybody that doesn't know that.
She
It's
really
just
is.
true.
Yep.
She really is.
Yeah.
And as we know, this is the episode that we let Dali go for the first time. And Dali has a rich future ahead of her in Dragula world. We didn't know it at the time. And this is the moment where I learned that we truly were fearless back then, because she's in the kitchen. Drac hits her over the head with a frying pan and roasts
As
her.
one does.
As one does.
Yes.
And roast this alien. And we look at on the prep kitchen list, and it's onions, tomato, lettuce, cabbage, and Dali. I was cracking up.
We had to serve something at craft services the next day, and I was desperate. So,
Oh, it was so
so
funny.
good.
let's talk about Dali for a second, right? Because when we cast Dali and when Dali first came on, the first couple episodes, I thought she could win. I was like, this is definitely a contender for the win. And I thought that she would kind of come in as a dark horse. Like, she wouldn't win anything in the beginning, but then about midway to the rest, she would start to claim the position. And I think she didn't win any of those first. Just weird calling her she now, because I know now
No,
at the
totally.
time it was like she, now it's he. But at the time, I feel like he hadn't won anything and he was losing steam, I think.
I think that that's a huge part of it. I think also just rewatching the season and just reliving all of the memories. I think that when I think about Dali at that point, I didn't realize that Dali's HIV diagnosis and everything that had happened with the band that he was a part of was literally just a year old.
Right.
Very
It was
fresh.
very fresh.
And so to go through that experience, which, as we learned in episode 3, is really, really intense. And then a year later to be here and just everything that was going on, I'm like, oh wow, okay, I get it. Do I think that they should have stayed? Actually, I don't know, because I think everything kind of works out the way it's supposed to. But
I was kind of devastated. Like I just
Oh,
did
yeah, I
not
remember
see
that.
that coming.
Yeah. Well, I always felt like the Professor X of like the weirdo drag scene, right? Because Dali is someone that I knew about and reached out to and was like, I was a fan of theirs. I'm like, I want to get you back on stage. Like, you used to be in a band, you're a singer, but you haven't sung in drag. And I think you need to do that. Come to our event and do that.
Yeah.
And that was before they were cast on Dragula. But there was other people, like Ursula Major is another one that I sort of reached out to with my telekinetic or telepathic powers. And we brought her here as well to perform at one of our events. So it was kind of interesting. It almost gave you like a way to test how they would do with us and with the whole vibe. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I remember when season 2's cast came out, there was a lot of controversy around the cast. People were mad. And Swan, I remember you said, and this is one of those things where it's like, you said this and it starts to shape the like DNA of the show as we go, where everyone was mad online and we're like, what do we do? Is this good? Is this bad? And you were like, let's just entertain the idea that having like the devil's house on the street is cool. Let's just think about it for like 5 seconds. And then the second that we got into it, it was like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't fuck my brother. My brother fucks me. And we have Dali and we have all these just freaks and weirdos and monsters. And it just made it awesome.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, to me, I feel like at the time, there just was no outlet for queer people in that way that was so in your face. Like you said, we were so in your face
So
about
raw.
everything.
Yeah.
I think it made it so right though, didn't it?
They really did.
You know, I think back to that. That was the beginning of kind of learning that whole online world.
Oh, yeah.
And how hellish it can be.
That was a rough lesson.
It was. But when you think about it now, it had a lot of energy around it. You know what I mean? People were talking about it because they could not stop watching. They could not take their eyes off of it.
And I'm just gonna say it. Bitches were jealous.
They were
There were fucking bitches out there across the country that were jealous.
Oh, yeah.
They were mad that they didn't get cast.
They were mad that they weren't us. I'll just say it. Like they're like, why are they
Why did they get
doing what
this?
they're doing? Like why did they get to do this? And I'm like, I don't know.
And
I just-
girl,
it's
say
unexpected. It was unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, we've always kind of opened the door. You can look at this. The clubs that we did before Dragula, the show, Dragula, Queen Kong, every event that we do, we try to involve as many people as possible, different people, fly you in from Chicago. Yeah. Oh, you're in town for DragCon? We'll definitely give you a job. Like we were kind of not leaders, but we were definitely players in this is a queer space. Let's support queer people.
Totally.
But the minute that we kind of got in that kind of above a threshold and people were looking at us, that's when the darker side, I think, of human nature comes through and like the jealousy and wishing bad on us and all that.
Totally. And I think you mentioned this in last episode's listener mail, where it was like, we had the support of World of Wonder, and I think largely Drag Race and the fandom was so like, oh, this is so cool. And we went into the release of season 2 thinking, oh, this is what it's going to be like. And then it very quickly was no.
Yeah.
One
Absolutely.
episode.
Yeah, all it took. And so, we're celebrating the victories. We're like, God, this is so cool. And then suddenly it's like, knock, knock, fuck all of you. And we're like, whoa, like what is this energy? Weird.
I knew when that happened that we were doing something right.
Hell
I
yeah.
knew. I was like, ooh, you're mad.
Oh, you're so mad.
Who told
I'm
you
like,
that?
okay.
Yeah, I remember, and it's funny because people who, and I'm going to say like Drag Race competitors who on one tweet would be like, oh, I should be a guest judge on the show. And then in the next tweet would dog the show. I'm like, do you not have anything better to do with your time? Like, what is your deal?
Thought they could get away with it because the show everyone was talking about, so everyone knew what they were referencing, but it didn't have this, megaopolis kind of vibe built around its success yet. It was still growing. And I think people thought, oh, I can take a cheap shot at that show and get away with it. But I'm like, keep saying the name.
Totally.
Keep saying the name,
Also, you're fucked because never forgets.
Oh.
And on
Nope.
that note, we're going to take a break and we'll do listener questions right after this.
Welcome back to the Crypt Uglies. Ian, will you do me the honor of reading our listener mail?
Of course, and I'm actually going to quote Drac as I do this. Let's set this bitch into warp drive. Hope from New York asks, in earlier seasons, it seemed like more competitors would face extermination per episode compared to the newer seasons. Was the decision to more consistently have only 2 competitors in the bottom a storytelling decision, an effort to lower the cost of Dracmorta's more extreme therapies, or something else? Also, whose kitten starred in Monique's death scene?
That was one of our main producers' kitten. What was Sprinkles?
Sprinkles, yeah.
Sprinkles.
Adorable.
Which was so cute. And she was like a miniature. What do they call it? Like a dwarf cat or something?
I think dwarf.
Yeah.
They have like little short legs, like a lowrider. That's what I call them.
Very cute.
Yeah.
As far as how many people faced extermination, help me remember. Were there usually more than 2?
I remember it like this. We fucking decided that day. We're like,
Yeah,
no,
literally.
just the 2 of them. And then, oh, no, all of them, the 3 of them. Like we literally did whatever we felt like was best in the moment. And then I think later now when the crew gets larger and time gets more important, you have to decide if it's going to be 2 or 3. And we usually do 2.
The reason that there's not 3 is because I like to at least go home and sleep for a couple of hours before we film the next episode. And if we did 3, that would not happen.
Yeah.
Just to say, people may not understand this. When we get to this set before everybody, hours before everybody, because we have to get in drag, and then we film everything and then go upstairs and de-drag and come back down and direct the extermination.
So if you do the math, that's like 15 to 16 hours.
I did fall asleep in my vehicle and rammed the wall during season 5
On
by
the
way.
highway.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Carolina.
she was okay. And in a supernatural twist, so was the car. Like the truck went up on the guardrail, but did not damage the truck at all, only the tire.
Oh my fucking
Very
God.
weird.
Yeah.
Yahia from Iraq asks, some of my favorite looks from the show are those that draw inspiration from video games. My question is, would you be able to structure a challenge around a video game, say like Silent Hill monsters, or would that be a copyright headache? Just wanted to understand the legalities from a viewer perspective.
I think you can parody it in some way. But what game do you think would have enough variety to support something like that?
It's weird. I think that Silent Hill is a good example. I think Resident Evil is a good example.
But if they're Silent Hill, how are they going to chop their arms off and put their head on upside down?
Ask Orgotic, mama. But I do think it's like, are there enough iconic monsters? Because it's like, okay, Silent Hill. It's like everyone knows Pyramid Head. But there's like a bunch of other monsters, but it's like they're just sort of like cannon fodder. So it's like, are they like cool enough? Like, it almost feels like a video game centric challenge would work, but like specific franchise, it's a little limiting.
Now, I remember there's like legs with a blob on top that vomit on you.
Vomit leg blob.
Vomit leg blob. Then I ran into one whose legs were on top of their head or something.
They're called spiders.
Okay, yeah, they had like legs coming out of their shoulders. All that shit scares the hell out. I don't care about pyramid head. It's when those things without the arms slide on the ground and bite you and stuff. I'm like, no.
Did you ever see the footwear?
No.
Mama, they wear in pleasers.
Really? They're in
Yes.
heels?
Yes, God. All of the female enemies, well, all of the enemies are wearing like stripper heels.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll talk about why later.
Another way to do it is to do what we did in season 6, which is partner with a brand
Yeah.
like Dead by Daylight, and
Yeah.
then you can, cross promote.
H asks, okay, now that you shared your favorite Joker actors and portrayals, I must know your least favorite. Spill the tea.
Oh, who was Was it Jared? No, who was
It was Jared Leto.
Jared Leto
Leto.
from Suicide Squad, and he looked like Vanilla Ice or something. It was really bad.
I didn't like it either. That's probably my least favorite.
Hated it. I talked about it on, I think, Blue Sky the other day, or Twitter. I don't know. Yeah, I shared something about Jack Nicholson, you know, and Cesar Romero, like their Jokers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Cesar Romero is sort of untouchable, but I said Jack Nicholson is very close. But I guess, yeah, Jared Leto would be my least favorite.
Same.
I think it's unarguably the worst. It is bad.
Yeah. Who would be a second worst? I'm trying to think of other portrayals.
He was very good, but Heath Ledger was another Joker. Who else played the Joker?
Mark Hamill voiced the Joker in the animated series, and
That's
he was great.
I think that the Joker, at least in terms of like the really popular portrayals, is, with the exception of Jared Leto, like pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that there's probably a lot of like weird smaller projects that are like, ooh, this is not great. But Jared Leto's is definitely terrible.
Who do you prefer your Joker to be really skinny and gaunt and like tall and lanky, or like beefier? Because they present him in different ways.
I like tall, lanky, and the distinct touch of insanity.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with lanky. And I also like heavily scarred and madness Joker. Like, I do think like the Cesar Romero, like the kind of classic like clown white with like the big smile, like that's cool. But I do like when Batman goes like, oh no, Gotham is dark. Gotham is a scary place to live.
Yeah, where his face is permanently disfigured, not just like lipstick.
So Drag Race would be like the Cesar Romero, and we would be like the scarred one.
What's the comic book where the Joker's face it's been like removed and then he staples it back on?
Oh,
I don't know. It's like really like tight, pulled back. Very drag.
Well, if you want to see the coolest Joker ever, Google the Joker from The Killing Joke, the graphic novel.
Let me just do a quick Joker Killing Joke. Really dark. Let's see. Love it. Love. Fierce.
You know a weird thing about Joker and the comics that I don't think people know?
Tell us, Track.
In The Killing Joke, the Joker finds out that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl, and he goes to her house and knocks on the door.
Yeah.
She opens the door and he shoots her and paralyzes her for life. And at one point, it was insinuated that he sexually assaulted her.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how she became Oracle and showed up in the Suicide Squad later. Very interesting.
Dollar Tree Darth asks, hey y'all, I'm halfway through a full Universal movie monster poster back piece tattoo featuring all three of you and the legendary Universal monsters too. My question is, do y'all like to be tagged or not for Dragula related tattoos?
We like to be tagged, and we like you to inbox us high-res versions of it so that we can share them.
Alex from Fort Myers, Florida writes, one of my favorite parts about the Boulet Brothers Dragula is how outstanding the floor show music is, and how perfectly each track ties in with the theme of each floor show. What is everyone's favorite floor show track you've had on the show?
Ooh, that's hard.
That is hard.
There's the one that's like da-na-na-na-na,
I think that was for Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah,
Trash Can Children.
Trash Can Children.
Yes.
I think the one that stands out for me is from season 4, Monsters of Rock. That this is your demo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, so
cool.
good.
We should reuse that.
Yeah.
That one is
we have.
hot. I really like also Cabin in the Woods. Or Cabin in the Woods? No, what's it called? Season 5, episode 1.
Oh,
Terror in the Woods.
Terror in the Woods.
Yeah, I think Terror in the Woods is awesome. And I also have this memory of playing Terror in the Woods for the cast for the first time, and their reaction to it, I was like, oh, we're winning. We're doing this, ladies. It's
Yeah, so
The
happening.
music
that
is good.
music is, our producer makes it custom for the challenge, and Swan gives them notes and everything. And yeah.
Kyle from Los Angeles writes, I have 2 questions. First, is the beginning of the science fiction episode the birth of the canon of why Israel is mute? Or was he mute prior to the alien attack, which is why a career as a desert park ranger suited him so well?
We basically made him mute because in the Boulets world, hot men should be seen and not heard.
That's right. So Drac took her voice.
Yes. Tell me you haven't been there and wanted to do that.
Please shut up.
It is the preferred.
Hot and chatty. Get out of
Ooh,
here.
Get out of here, hot and chatty.
Oh, don't talk.
Ooh, take your pants off and zip the lip. Ooh, back in the go-go box, honey. Oh, this is actually, so Kyle actually has 3 questions.
Oh.
Sorry for rewinding it a bit, but I noticed in the Last Supper of season 1 that the contestants seemed overwhelmingly to see Frankie Doom as the winner. I found this interesting because, as a viewer, Frankie faded into the background for most of the season, but I'm curious about your perspective on what the competitors might have experienced that made them feel otherwise. Did Frankie have a stronger presence on set or behind the scenes that we as the audience are not able to see?
Yeah, I have distinct feelings about this because I think this stems from opinions about what a monster is and whose head is fit to wear the crown. And Frankie really does live up to like the monster. The tattoos are monstrous. He works at a haunt. His drag kind of definitely lives in that space. And compared to Melissa and Vander, maybe not as much in that very specific way, but we weren't judging on those standards. Those are the standards that the other competitors were imprinting on the competition.
I think it's because Frankie was known in the scene. Frankie had been doing alternative drag for years before Vander started doing drag. So I think to the other contestants, they thought Frankie had more street cred. Not that Vander wasn't the brand, but that Vander was too new.
Mm-hmm.
And Melissa, they know because they perform in town that Melissa was more of a WeHo girl than a downtown girl.
Yeah, I specifically remember Xochitl saying, "Crown the monster."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, honestly, Frankie does have a tractor beam when they're present in your face. I think that maybe it didn't come across on camera in season 1.
I can say that too.
I mean, when you watch Resurrection, like he's hysterical.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think everything that y'all have said, and I do think it's a little bit of just backstage at the show kind of favoritism. Frankie is friends with everyone. Like
Right.
Frankie is a good time gal. And
She really is. So fun all the time.
Totally.
All right, everybody, that is it for this episode. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen, and join us back here next week where we will be discussing the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 5.
Set this bitch into warp drive.
The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted and produced by Dracmorda and Swantula Boulet, along with co-host Ian DeVogler, with music by Neuron Spectre.